Just to recap on the end of day 3, it's now the morning of the next day. I'm going to put this up. I didn't have time to last night, but just going to show some of the work I got. The front suspension kit tacked in place. Today I'm going to be working on the front end, the aprons, radiator support, to get them all changed out and make room for the new shock tower plates that go in place, which I'll show you. And then we'll start moving backwards from there, cowl, floor pan to meet the floor supports or subframe connectors and pieces like that. So let's check out the front end and see where we're at with that. So on the front end we got a TCI makes this kit, which has the motor mount spots already welded in for the Coyote motor. And just to go over a couple points on it, basically, it shows you where to put the measurements to cut the frame rails. So it's using the same rail from that point back to the floor support, and then it replaces the whole way up. You just basically cut all the aprons around it, cut the shock towers, just to make enough room to get this kit up in there. Before I cut out the front rails, you can see these tabs here that they include. You bolt these to the old rails and tack them in place to the old aprons on both sides, and that's what they're using to help line up the front end. So you're setting the whole front end up to those bolt holes there, and then you butt things up to where they're tight on the top side, because there's a plate that they make that attaches to the bottom of the rail and then goes back the whole way up the floor support. It connects to part of the original floor support, and it basically is a new floor support, which are these pieces here. So this end will get welded up in place and then go back to the end, and that's going to be your new end of the floor support on the very end of it. But these are front apron pieces, rad support. That'll be, hopefully by the end of today, I'll have everything from the firewall forward done, except for welding in the new shock tower plates, which are down here. So they might get bolted in, but I'll leave those for last. I'm just going to replace all 4 aprons and the radiator support first, and the extension pieces I got, which I'll leave those off because I'm going to change the entire cowl also. And then while I got these aprons off, I'm going to take advantage of the space and clean the firewall to get all that old, on the outside, the undercoat off, and then just all the grime over the years and the original paint from the firewall there. We're going to get all that off. Torque box area, clean all that up, and then just continue working back. You can see I got the windshield out. We'll clean up all these posts, and then I'll be cutting out the floor on the front half, basically to expose the floor support so it's easier for me to put the new floor supports in. It gives you a lot more room to work around. And then after I get those floor supports in, we'll look at the toe boards where I separate them from that floor pan. And if they need any patchwork, that's when that will be done. And then we'll continue to work back after that, and probably actually probably hang the doors to get them lined up to the original quarters before I cut the quarter panels off. And then once I cut the quarters off, I'll do trunk floors, trunk brace. I'm reusing the rear rails, and then we'll set up the whole back end. And I may leave the full floor for last, only because at that point I'll test fit the drive line, set the engine in place, attach it to the bell housing transmission, bolt it to the cross member, and then I'll set my new floor pan in and make sure there's no clearance issues, especially also to the firewall. just to make sure everything is going to work smoothly before the car gets painted, to make sure there's no trimming that I got to do. So I'll set all that in once the floor pan's cut out, and then set the new floor pan in, make any adjustments I have to, and then weld that whole floor pan in place. And then there's some cleaning to be done. I'll clean up all the pillars, the B-pillars, the rockers, get all that old paint and surface rust off. And the bottom side, like I said in the other video, the rear rails that I'm keeping, clean all that off. The inner wheelhouses will most likely be kept, so we'll clean off all that undercoat, which I use a little mini torch and a scraper to heat it up and scrape it off, and then I'll use my wire wheel and clean it off the rest of the way. The outer wheelhouses are going to be changed with the quarters, so that takes care of that. Taillight panel, all that will be hung all together. So it's moving along smooth, everything's going good. I'm going to be working on that front end, so hopefully the next update, if it's tonight or tomorrow morning, we'll be seeing that whole front end with new metal, and it'll be looking pretty good. So time to get started on this front end. Also, I figured just a little bit of a description of how I'm going to approach the aprons. I'm not just going to cut everything off at once. I'm going to do one panel at a time. I'm going to leave the backs on so it keeps all of that in line. I'll change one side at a time. I'll cut this one out from the rad support and from the shock tower. Take that panel out, prep the metal, because I'm going to be actually using just this lip of the shock tower. The rest of the shock tower is going to be cut out because of the style of suspension. And then I'll weld that apron to that and to the rail. And then I'll move on to the other side, do the same thing, cut it out, prep that shock tower piece, weld it to the frame rail. And then after that, it'll be completely detached already. After replacing that apron, we're going to change out that rad support, and then we'll move on to the back two pieces. I'll do also one at a time. I'll cut that one out, put the new one in on that side, cut that side out, put the new one in, still using the outer piece of that shock tower, and also this upper connecting piece is going to stay. It'll be cut out basically along that lip there. So we're going to use that to help line up everything there, and then grind down all the welds. We'll leave the extension pieces in place for now until I'm ready to cut out that cowl. But that's just a little insight of how I'm going to approach this front end once I get those all four aprons in, and then that's whenever I'll take plasma cutter and we'll cut out basically that whole outline of the shock tower and get that out of the way, and then it'll look like it's supposed to be and everything will be out of the way. You can see it's hiding part of the mounting locations there, with that shock tower being in place. So that's just how everything's going to be done up front. And that's the update of the 69 Fastback project. I appreciate everyone that's watched the videos and commented and given it a thumbs up. I really appreciate everyone's support and just the community of Mustangs. It's just cool to see everyone that likes to see this kind of stuff done or these cars saved. With that said, thanks for watching this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Turn on the post notifications if you want to get notified when I upload these. Like I said, pretty much every day on this project until it's done. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.